Alright, so now let's create our own very first React component, right? Let's learn how to create a component. So as I already told in the previous lecture, that what is a component? Component is just a building block, right? And what do I mean by a building block? Let me just give you again a real life example if you didn't get it at the first time. So if you see, this is our browser right now. We are in our browser and we are at the Google's homepage. Okay, so Google search bar, all of these particular buttons, Gmail, images, all of these tabs, everything is there. So when we are developing something in React, so everything is treated as a component in itself, right? So if you see, this search bar is in itself a component. All of these particular buttons in itself are components, right? Just some components. This Gmail images, these tabs are actually components, right? So everything over here is component in itself, and they are inside a bigger component, right? Let's suppose that this search bar is a component, and inside that you have its children component like this search logo, this voice button, this camera button, all of these things, right? Like that. So this actually happens, and similarly this whole page in itself a bigger component, and inside that you have all of these child components, right? So now you must be getting the idea. Alright, so let's actually start and create our own very first component, and let's see how can we actually create a component in React. Okay, great. So over here what you have to do is, so this is my app component, so I'll treat it as a parent component, and inside this I'll get another component, right? Great. So let's do that. So inside this source folder, what you have to do is you just go to the source folder, just create a new folder, right? And this folder I'll just name as components. So this is my components folder, and inside this component folder, let's just create a new file, right? That will be our component, and let's just give this a name, hello .jsx, just like that, right? Now you see how am I writing this particular name. Did you notice something? Yes, the first letter is always capital. So always make sure that whenever you create a component, the first letter is always capital. Other than that, you can keep it anything, but the first letter should always be capital. So hello.jsx. So this is going to be our component. Now, what this component is going to do? This component is going to just print hello for you, right? Just let's do that. So how to create a component? So if you see, this is the syntax of creating a component. So I'll just create it for you, right? So function and hello. This is the name of our component. So always make sure that you keep the names as you are keeping the file's name, right? So hello.jsx, so hello is our component, like that. This is a better way to do it, right? Great. So function hello, and this hello, what it will do? Yes, now we can write HTML code inside this particular function, right? And that will make it a functional component, right? So function hello, and let's return something from here. And what do we want to return? We just want to return one h1, which will just print hello from hello component for you. Component, just change the spelling, right? Something like that, right? Now what to do with this component? As I said that I'm going to use it in my parent component, that is basically in this app.jsx component. So now I'll have to let this app.jsx know that okay, this component is going to come and it will get inside you, right? So basically for that I'll need to export this component from here. So I'll just write export default hello. So by this what I'm saying that I'm exporting this component so that I can now use it anywhere that I want outside of this component, right? So I'm going to use it in my app.jsx. So as I'm exporting it from here, I also need to import it over here, right? So I'll just import it at the top, that hey, we are going to import the hello component. Yes, this one, hello from. Now you just have to give the address from where you need to import it. So I'll just say /, and as soon as I say /, I'm getting all of these directory options, right? So I'll just select components, and from inside this, what component do I want? I want the hello component, just like that, right? And now I need to use this component. So how are you going to use this component? So I'll just remove this h1, and in place of this h1, I'll just open a tag and I'll just say hello, and I will close it. That's how you use a component. So I have imported this hello component from components slash hello, and I'm just saying that, hey app, take this component and use it inside you, right? So that this component will be visible right now. And what this component holds? This component holds an h1 which will say hello from hello component, right? Let's see if we are able to do that or not. And now let's go to our app, and you see what you are getting, hello from the hello component, right? So we have created our first basic component, right? Similarly, you can create multiple components, and you can have multiple components inside your app.jsx, which is your parent file, right? So over here, let's go to our components and create one more component, right? So I'll just name this buy.jsx or anything like that, right? So I'll just have it again, right? But now, as you saw that we just have to write function, return, all of these things. So for that, we have already installed a extension that is known as React code snippets, right? So if you want to use some shortcuts, you can do that as well. So it will basically save you some repetitive task, right? So what you can write, you can just go over here and you can write React functional component export. That's it. RFCE shortcut. So what it will do, it will create a functional component for you and it will export it as well, right? So if I do this, you see, plain and simple functional React component, right? And this actually has the name of your file as well, your component as well, and this has also exported it. So you do not need to worry about import, export, and creating a function and again doing all of that stuff. You can just go over here, you can change the content that you want to change, and you can just do this, right? So over here, I'll just have an h1 which will say buy from React, right? Or buy from buy component, something like that. Right, great. So let's see that. So if and now I want to use this. So again, how to use this? We have to go to app.jsx, and inside this app.jsx, we'll just say import buy from ./component/buy. So we have imported two components. Now how to use it? We can just go over here and we can say buy. We need to use this buy component. Great. But this is giving an error. This should not have happened, right? We can use multiple components in app component. So basically, to have multiple components together, you need to use something known as a React fragment, right? So in our previous lecture, you must have seen this particular symbol, like this something was there, right? So you actually need to use this. You can also write react.fragment, something like that, react.fragment, something like that. You can open, close this. But yes, to basically have a shortcut, you can just use these symbols and you can wrap your whole components inside this if you want to use multiple components, right? Also, you can use a div, but that is not recommended, right? Because there are some performance issues. So if you want to write it something like this, yes, this is also allowed. So inside a div, you have two components, completely allowed, right? If you see right now, you will see the content of both the components, hello from hello component, buy from buy component. So both the components are getting rendered now, but you can just use the React fragment. This is the better approach, right? Like that. If you want to have multiple components, right? So now you see there is no change, you have both the components, right? So always make sure that when you are going to use multiple components in one component, right? Because app is again the parent component. Inside this component, you have these two components. So whenever you want to use multiple components, just make sure you're using a React fragment or a div, right? Mostly a React fragment. Alright, so this is a React fragment, and now you have learned that how can you create a component, and you have also learned how to use multiple components, right? In the next lecture, we'll talk further.